Hello and welcome to episode number 33 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio Philadelphia. My name is Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli. That's what it says on my birth certificate, Esports and Gaming Insider Jason Fanelli. And we have a fantastic show for you this evening with the latest and greatest news of the week. We're going to talk about the Call of Duty League schedule. We're going to talk about Microsoft's little gaffe with the Xbox Live price and the significant changes that happened because of it. And then we're going to end the show with a topic that I really don't want to talk about because it's such an easily avoidable mistake, but I feel like it needs to be addressed, and I'd like to do so tonight. But before we get into all of that, it is time for the 6 in 60 seconds. Esports organization Evil Geniuses announces entry into the Valorant Champions Tour, the first new esport for the org since September of 2019. Fighting game tournament Combo Breaker 2021 has been canceled due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, but a multi-day digital festival is planned in its stead. Also, Twitch rivals and Maximilian Dude are teaming up once again for a 32-player Killer Instinct tournament this Monday. Meanwhile, longtime Sonic the Hedgehog voice actor Roger Craig Smith is stepping down from the role after a decade as Sonic's voice. Returnal, the PS5 exclusive from Housemarque, has been delayed to April 30th. And finally, on a somber note, Jeanette Mouse, the actress portraying the witches in Resident Evil 8 Village, just revealed last week, has passed away from colon cancer at the age of 39. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. Yes, folks, a rather sad end to the 6 in 60 this week. It is with a somber heart that we talk about Jeanette Mouse, who it's a shame that one of her biggest gaming roles ever, at least it looks like it, was just revealed last week in these 3 scary black hooded witches, and she will not be around to see that come to fruition with the game releasing in May. So our condolences and our well wishes to her family. May they get through this time of grief with strength and grace, and remember the good times they had with Jeanette. And we will all appreciate her in May when Resident Evil 8 releases. There's no real good way to transition from something like that onto the first story of the night. So I'm just going to say, let's move on to the Call of Duty League schedule for 2021. We have been given this schedule by the Call of Duty League during the Kickoff Classic last weekend. There are a bunch of great matches from that if you haven't seen them already. Toronto versus Minnesota was a really good one. Paris and London was an excellent matchup. And then Optic Chicago and LA Thieves lived up to its moniker as the biggest match of the weekend. The history between those teams and the ongoing story between them is very, very interesting. And that is one that I highly recommend that you check out when you have a chance at some point on their on-demand service. But now we can move on to the 2021 league schedule, which was given during that event. And the way that it's structured is interesting in a way that every team gets highlighted for 1 week, but there is almost constant Call of Duty League action from February 11th to July the 19th. They have really scheduled this in a way that is very, very impressive. So there's 5 unique stages in this Call of Duty League season. They are each broken up into 3 home series. They're called that even though they're being played digitally, where there are 15 of these home series total, only 12 teams, so 3 of them are just called Call of Duty League home series. Really would have been nice if there were some extra teams in this league to fill those slots. A Philadelphia team. Anyway, but the other 12 are each featuring a specific team. The first one is February the 11th, Valentine's weekend, and it's the Atlanta FaZe home series. Atlanta is the only team in the league to get a home series all their own in a stage. This February 11th is the Atlanta FaZe home series. February 18th and the 25th are the generic Call of Duty League home series. And then March the 1st is the Stage 1 Major. At the end of that tournament, teams will earn extra points for winning that major tournament in the standings. That will help them at the end of the season. Now, I'm okay with one team being the only one to have a home series in this first stage. But why is it the Atlanta FaZe when the Dallas Empire are the defending champions? You would think that you would highlight the team that won your league the year prior and not the team that came as a runner-up. No disrespect to Atlanta FaZe, mind. The FaZe clan is one of the biggest esports names out there, and I'm sure that has something to do with it. But Dallas should be in that driver's seat role, seeing as how they won your dang league last year. But alas, Atlanta is first, and on February the 11th, and then we have two generic ones, the 18th and the 25th, and then the March the 1st is the Stage 1 Major. Stage 2 on March 18th belongs to the Toronto Ultra. March 25th is the third and final generic Call of Duty League home series. April 1st is the LA Gorillas, and then April 5th is the Stage 2 Major. So only if you consider the full weekend of action at the Stage 1 Major starting March the 1st. Only about 2 weeks between the end of Stage 1 and the beginning of Stage 2. So 4 weeks on, 2 weeks off looks to be the schedule for the 2021 season. And that, to me, makes a lot of sense. You get 4 straight weeks of all the teams giving you good Call of Duty action. They get 2 weeks to scrim and practice and prepare, and then they're right back at it again in Stage 2. And this goes on throughout the entire season until the end of Stage 5, which we'll get to that, and then we'll talk about the playoff structure when the time comes. So Stage 2, like I said, is Toronto, March the 18th, the third generic, March 25th, LA Gorillas, April 1, and Stage 2 Major, April 5. 2 weeks break, and then Stage 3 comes back April 22 with the London Royal Ravens home series. April 29 is the Paris Legion home series. And finally, on May the 6th, we have the home series celebrating the defending champions of the Call of Duty League, the Dallas Empire, May the 6th, with the third major happening May the 10th, right after the third home series. And yes, if you'll notice also, with all 5 of these stages, the major tournaments are right after the third stage. April 1st is the LA Gorillas home series. April 5th is the Stage 2 Major. February 25th is the generic Call of Duty League home series. March 1st is the Major. And in this case, May 6th is the home series. May 10th is the Major. Stage 4 begins May 27th, which I believe is Memorial Day weekend this year. Might be the weekend after. It's Optic Chicago's home series. June the 3rd is Florida Mutineers' home series. June the 10th is LA Thieves. So both of the newer, or the newly branded teams, I should say, have their home series in Stage 4, with the Stage 4 Major coming out June the 14th. And then finally, Stage 5 beginning July the 1st and running the first 3 weeks of July. Seattle Surge is first on the 1st. New York is second on July the 8th. The Minnesota Rocker are the last home series of the year after being the first home series of 2020. That's some good polarity there. On July the 15th. And July 19th is the Stage 5 Major. From there, we will then talk about what the playoffs and everything like that. I imagine they'll be the same as last year's, only they won't have... it'll be a double elimination tournament, this time with 8 teams. They did say 8 teams, so the last year, if you recall, 9, 10, 11, and 12 seeds made the tournament, but they had to start in the loser's bracket. So the top 8 teams were in the winner's bracket, with the top 4 teams getting at least one bye, but the 9, 10, 11, and 12 had to start with a loss right out of the jump. And if you remember, Optic Gaming LA, what they were called at the time, made a huge run from that loser's bracket, almost getting to the Final Four before losing in the losers. Was that losers eighths, losers semis, something like that? A great little run from them, and now they're the LA Thieves. So hopefully the LA Thieves won't have that much trouble, at least in their case, getting back to that deep in the playoffs this coming year. So now that we have the schedule, let's talk about the scoring formats for the Call of Duty League season this year. Now, as I said, as you have heard, they're all in stages and going into majors. So all of the majors will be double elimination tournaments, and those seedings will be determined by head-to-head group play matches over the course of the home series weeks leading up to them. So in stage 1, you have the Atlanta phase, you have the 2 generic, and then you have the major. All 12 teams will be in that major, but standings will depend on how they did in the 3 weeks of group play leading up to it. And then every teams will earn points in the standings every time they win, with additional points distributed to teams based on how they perform in the majors. So I imagine if it's like last year, you'll get 50 points for the win, maybe more than that, maybe 100 points for the win, 50 points for second. I don't know that they've actually come out with those totals yet, at least not that I'm seeing. But that's how they're going to earn their points. And then it'll go to stage 2 where more points can be earned. And the top 8 points earners at the end of the year will then go to the playoffs in a double elimination format. So if we're looking at the schedule outright, that opening weekend, February 11th to the 14th, features the very first match, Thursday, February 11th at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, Minnesota versus LA. Then 4:30, Seattle versus Dallas. The next day, Friday, is 2 more matches, Paris and Optic Chicago. LA Guerrillas versus Atlanta FaZe on the 4:30. So that's the second match of Friday. The first match on Saturday of 3 is Paris versus LA Guerrillas. Then Toronto versus Florida. Then New York versus LA. And then the Sunday, Valentine's Day, 3 matchups, Seattle versus London, Minnesota versus Dallas, and Optic versus Atlanta. So that's your first week of the first stage, with points being earned for every win. And then week 2 will have another slate of matches starting on the 18th. Week 3 will start on February 25th, as we said. And then the major, stage 1, which is the bracket you can see on their website right now, will determine where each team ends up. The 3 weeks beforehand, will determine where each team ends up in that bracket. Now, the teams have been split into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Those 2 groups are playing each other to determine where they place in these brackets. I don't know that there's much mixing together, or the groups may change after every stage. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, so that every team can play every other team at least once. But for stage 1, the groups have been decided, and now we know who's going to be playing who in that first stage. So Group A is Dallas, the LA Thieves, Minnesota, London, New York, and Seattle, where Group B is Atlanta, Optic Chicago, Florida Mutineers, Toronto Ultra, LA Guerrillas, and Paris Legion. They are the groups making up the first stage. And then the bracket, the way the bracket works is the bottom 3 teams from each group will start in the loser side. So they will start with 1 loss, essentially, in this double elimination format, where the top 3 from each group will start in the winner's side. The first seed, the top seed in both groups, get a bye, and the team that ranks 4th in each group get a bye in the elimination round. 5th and 6th play each other, but for opposite groups. So Group A's 5th plays Group B's 6th, and then Group B's 5th plays Group A's 6th, the loser side. And on the winner's side, same thing with the 2nd and 3rd seeds. A's 2nd plays B's 3rd, and then A's 3rd plays B's 2nd. So that's how they're mixing it up in the playoffs. And then as you go through the tournament, you'll get finally to the tournament finals, where the team remaining from the winner's side will face the team remaining from the elimination side to determine the Stage 1 champion. Now, I think this is a good idea. It adds a little more structure to the entire season. It gives people a lot more reason to be invested in the early going. Sometimes it's hard to really get into these matches when it's like week 1 or week 2. It's almost like college basketball, no offense to college basketball, in a sense, where for me personally, I keep an eye on it just to see where the tournament is trending, but I don't know, or I don't really follow it. I don't really dig deep into it until like the week before the brackets come out. So I know what teams are good, what teams to look out for, who's the underdogs, who's the sleepers, that sort of thing. Here, I feel like you get a better sense of what's going on in the Call of Duty League a lot faster because those brackets are at the end of every major. So you'll have 5 of those brackets throughout the season before we even get to the playoffs themselves. So I'm very much looking forward to this new structure. I like that there's 2 at least semi-new teams. They seem new, even though they're technically just new owners of the franchises themselves. I'm looking forward to see what they can do in their first season in the league. And I'm just looking forward to more Call of Duty. Call of Duty League was definitely entertaining last year. Hoping to see that they can do more of the same, even with 4v4 instead of 5v5, even with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War being the game of choice. Not that either of those things are bad, they're just different. So I'm curious if fans of last year's structure will be as into the new structure in 2021. Now that we've talked about that schedule, it is time to raise your glasses and have a taste of the great selection of games coming this week. That means it's time for What's on Tap. Destruction All-Stars, a original launch title for the PlayStation 5 that was moved to February's PlayStation Plus free game lineup. It's February, so Destruction All-Stars is here, bringing half Twisted Metal car combat, half third-person action with it. It's supposed to be a very interesting-looking multiplayer game. I hope that it being free boosts its playability for a lot of people. Ys 9 Monstrum Nox. That is a mouthful. The latest game in the Ys RPG franchise comes to the PlayStation 4 this week as well. Big-time game for a lot of RPG fans, especially those of the Cult Classic series. And finally, Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood, an action RPG from Nacon, rounds out the week with another grand adventure for those looking for a decent chunk of a game, decent time to dedicate to a game before the next major release. So 3 titles on the docket this week. Lots to choose from. What's on tap for you? And with that, it is on to the second major story of the week. And that actually happened Friday of last week. We had already posted our episode. Things were hunky-dory. We figured we would go into a weekend devoid of any gaming news. And then Microsoft had to go and muck it all up. And they did that by announcing a price change to the Xbox Live subscription service. So initially, the prices were $9.99 for a single month, $24.99 for 3 months, and a full year for $59.99. Now, just to clarify, this is only Xbox Live's online gold capability. This has nothing to do with Xbox Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. So if you are listening to this recap of what happened, and you have Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate, know that the prices are not changing for you. So it was $9.99 for a month, 3 months for $24.99, and a year for $59.99. And this new structure that they announced on Friday was that the single month would go up $1 to $10.99. 3 months would go up to $29.99, up $5. And the $59.99 price point would stay, but it would become 6 months instead of the full year. This caught a lot of people way off guard to the point where their social medias were flooded with complaints and questions and things like, if it's not broken, why are you fixing it? The one really caught people the wrong way was the $59.99 for 6 months. That cutting the top price point for the subscription in half really stuck under people's craw, and for good reason. Going from 6 months to 12 months for $59.99, that means that you think a full year is double the price. That's not a great idea. If you wanted to raise the 12-month pricing to like in a percentage like you're increasing the other ones, so $1 for 1 month, $5 for 3 months, raise the 12-month $10, $15. Put it at $69.99 or $74.99. That at least makes a little more sense. But to then go 6 months for $60 and basically double the price of a full year of Xbox Live really, really, really reeked of, we want to get rid of Xbox Live Gold by itself. Please subscribe to Game Pass so we can. Because the Game Pass Ultimate is $14.99 a month, and it includes Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold. It merges them together. So this really, to a lot of people, reeked of, please, please, please switch to Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate. We don't want to offer Gold by itself anymore. And honestly, people let them have it on Twitter in ways that were constructive, which are nice, in ways that were not constructive, which is not great. The internet, essentially. The way that the internet is how people reacted to this news, and rightfully so in this case. Although I will never condone people going over the top and harassing people or threats or anything like that. That not necessary. If you're angry about a price hike in your online gaming service, that's one thing. But then to go and threaten people over it, then you need to sit back and take a chill pill, my friend. Nothing is worth that. No need to harass people just for being the bearers of bad news. You don't have to like the announcement, but you also can't then, threaten death upon the person who made it. It's not exactly a punishment worthy of the crime. I would hope that most people would agree. And the fact that I even have to make that disclaimer is upsetting, but that's neither here nor there. What matters is, after the uproar, this was first announced, I would say, maybe 10 a.m., 11 a.m., maybe 9 a.m., somewhere in the morning of Friday the 22nd. And then 9:30 p.m. on Friday night, an update comes to the official Xbox Wire post that was reporting this price change. This update came, so a little earlier than I said, at 8:52 p.m., or a little later, than I said, 8:52 p.m. Pacific time on 1/22. So this is nearly midnight on the East Coast. And the message says this: "We messed up today and you were right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day. As a result, we have decided not to change Xbox Live Gold's pricing. We're turning this moment into an opportunity to bring Xbox Live more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play those games on Xbox. We are working hard to deliver this change as soon as possible in the coming months. If you are an Xbox Live Gold member already, you stay at your current price of renewal. New and existing members can continue to enjoy Xbox Live Gold for the same prices they pay today. In the US, $9.99 for 1 month, $24.99 for 3 months, $39.99 for 6 months, and $59.99 for retail 12 months. Thank you. So, the prices were reversed. That in itself is notable. Right back to the way that they were. But more importantly is that second paragraph that I read. And just for clarification, I will read it again. We're turning this moment into an opportunity to bring Xbox Live more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play those games on Xbox. It was true that in order to play any game on Xbox, you needed Xbox Live. So games like Fortnite, for example, a big example, Even though Fortnite is free to download and play on PC, on Switch, on PlayStation, on everything else, for whatever reason, they required Xbox Live online to play Fortnite on the Xbox. And it really hurt the Fortnite audience for the Xbox. Nobody wants to pay for something that can be free in another format. Why would you do that? So, this gaffe that Microsoft made with the pricing of Xbox Live, they then turned into an opportunity to save face, and they are eliminating that need as soon as possible. Meaning that if you have someone you know who likes to play Fortnite on the PC but wants to get a console to play, to bring their account over for console playing as well, Xbox is now a viable option. So think about that. You could be playing Fortnite on Xbox for free. All you need is an internet connection, just like the other consoles. This was a huge advantage that other consoles had over Xbox that they no longer have. And it's very smart of the company, in my opinion, to make the change now after a major hullabaloo with their pricing and use it as a make good. Now, granted, it does say we're working to bring this change to you as soon as possible, and does not get into when that may be. We don't know how long it will take to change the structure of Xbox Live in order to make this change. But the fact that they are choosing to make it at all not only shows how serious they were about making good of the gaffe, but shows the power of people who respond to things they don't like in a manner that gets the company's attention. Excuse me. Now, I don't want that to be an endorsement of getting online and harassing your local video game maker. You should not do that. I'm not entirely sure how I can be more clear about this, but harassment and death threats and things like that are simply not cool. And if you're doing them, you may want to reconsider your placement and your outlook on life, because that, my friend, is not a healthy way to be. But if you bring these concerns via Twitter or Instagram or email, if you have the email at somebody at Microsoft, if you know them, you bring this to them and you say, look, man, or look, lady, or look, girl, whatever you call the person, this is not something you should do. This is not a good idea. This is not something you should follow through with, because it's going to alienate a lot more people than it's going to bring in. You hiking up the price to double essentially what it used to be, but only or selling what you were selling at one price, but half of the time, is not going to be good, and you're going to get a lot of flack for it. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for this conversation to see if there was any hand wringing or any questions of concern or second thoughts about making this change. I cannot imagine it was, hey, let's do this. Sure, stamp. I refuse to believe that that's how it went through, just because of how swift and how intense the reaction was to this announcement. But also, to give Microsoft and the Xbox team credit, they made the change. They went back to their original pricing plan. They even decided to do the free-to-play thing, which they had been stalling on for months, as a make-good. Not many companies who fall under this pressure then revert to what they were doing before, or change their methods to get back to whatever it is that was causing the problems in the first place. They don't do that. They just press on and they make their changes and they say, well, if you don't like it, tough cookies, there's the door. So for Microsoft to then, backtrack and then talk about the special edition feature, kind of shows their whole approach to gaming at the moment, with things like Game Pass and all the other things the Xbox One X and Series X can do. They really are trying to be as gamer friendly as possible, and when you present them with something that is not, they change it. I have to give a ton of kudos to Phil Spencer and Major Nelson, Larry Herb, and anybody who was in the room for the initial decision versus the change now, or the change back, I should say, because I can't imagine that was easy decision to go back to the normal pricing after putting so much effort into getting the price where they wanted it to be, but also adding the sweetener. That part, the sweetener part, is probably the most amazing part of all, because once they reverted back to their original pricing, they didn't have to do anything else. But to add that extra step is really, really cool. So I have to really give props to Microsoft and Xbox where they belong. They made the right call last Friday in changing the pricing of these services back to what they were before, allowing players to get back on Xbox Live at the prices they were paying before, or in the case of playing a new free-to-play game, not needing any price at all to access those games online. I'm curious how Fortnite's play stats will go up now that this has happened on the Xbox or other games of that nature. How the Xbox's foothold on those gamers will, if they do at all, increase with the changing of this rule. So, again, I give many, many kudos to Xbox and Microsoft for making this tough decision to reverse their initial decision. I imagine it's going to affect their bottom line or something at some point, because that extra money was probably already budgeted in and accounted for, and so on and so forth. They're not going to get it anymore. And the lack of funds from people who may have only gotten Xbox Live Gold to play Fortnite on Xbox, and now they don't need it. So they may see some negative effects from this. But for the most part, this is really, really cool of them. And I hope that more companies follow suit and see how damage control is good for them. Finally tonight, we're going to get a little heavy in the speed run. Can't exactly call it a speed run this evening, because I don't think this will be a quick conversation. For those of you who are not aware of him, if you do not follow gaming or anything like that, it does make sense. But probably the most prolific or famous Twitch streamer, video game streamer that there is a guy whose name is Ninja. His full name is Tyler Blevins. Calls himself Ninja. He's got blue hair and a headband, and he's playing Halo or Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever he's playing on his stupid channel. And he must have some sort of foot fetish, because he loves to put his foot in his mouth. And this week he did it again. Before the gaming world, or the world in general, became absorbed with GameStop stock and all that stuff, the big controversy at the beginning of the week was this dude spouting off some nonsense that got some people riled up. So I am going to get a little into what he was talking about and where I stand on this situation, because it is an interesting conversation, and one that I think is important to have, whether you are a parent, whether you are a gamer, whether you are a streamer, any of that. If you were to hit the big time and become a big time streamer, this is something that should be talked about and discussed, as either strategized, whatever you want to call it, before you begin your streaming career. So let's get into what was actually said. So he was profiled by the New York Times, which the professional gamer being profiled by the New York Times is nuts in its own regard. So also, we should probably preface this by saying Ninja is no stranger to controversy. He has said some things that has riled up people in the past. He has a policy that people have talked about before. Well, he will not stream, or co-stream, or partner on a stream with a female. He will not play with a female gamer. He says it's out of respect to his wife, which I kind of understand. But then again, I believe there needs to be some sort of, self-control. I don't think there needs to be an assumption that if you're streaming with a female streamer, if you're partnering with a female streamer, that you're immediately in a relationship. That, I think, is a bit extreme. and there are people who definitely think it's a bit extreme. It's a silly thing to take. I don't even think his wife would care. I could be wrong about that. I don't know her from, Adam, or Eve, I guess, in this case. But that really caught people the wrong way, and he said some other dumb stuff before. That one sticks out. But he has said some dumb stuff before. But he has said some stuff that I do agree with. Like in this New York Times profile, elaborating on that controversy, he said, "You shouldn't spend a lot of alone time with a woman if you're a married man." Yeah, okay. I'm with that. That is absolutely correct. You should not be spending alone time with a woman if you're married to somebody else. But that's neither here nor there. What we're getting into here is this statement. He has a very large underage audience. He is a role model. He is an idol to a lot of kids in this day and age who watch him on Twitch, watch him on YouTube. It puts him on a platform above other gamers. And honestly, there are some responsibilities that come with that platform that Mr. Blevins doesn't seem to understand. So let's talk about. Here's the quote. The quote is about his underage audience, and he says, "You want to know who your kid is. Listen to him when he's playing video games when he thinks you're not. Here's another thing. How does a white kid know he has white privilege if his parents never teach him or don't talk about racism?" And the next line he says is, and this is where the major part of the conversation comes in, "Is it my job to have this conversation with this kid? No. Because the first thing that's going on in my head is, this kid is doing this on purpose to troll me." This did not go over well with the gaming community in general for many hopefully obvious reasons. First and foremost, that if you're going to be a role model, being a role model comes with certain responsibilities. And he really caught a lot of crap for this. He's basically... So let's read some of these tweets here that came of this. So first, this one says, "Honestly, in a way, Ninja is proving why he needs to educate or check his viewers. While trying to show black girl gamers that he's a supporter of Black Lives Matter, he basically unleashed his racist trolls to harass black girl gamers. It might not have been on purpose, but the consequences still exist." So basically what they're saying is, if he doesn't say anything about it, then he doesn't think he is in a position to do anything about it because it's not his responsibility. And that is where I say, if you ever listen to this, Ninja, what are you talking about, my friend? That attitude just says to me that you don't want to be... You basically wash your hands of what your fans do, and you just want to sit and play video games and not have all this responsibility. Well, unfortunately, sir, if you're being profiled by the New York Times, you have this responsibility, whether you like it or not. You are a role model now. You got there by playing video games, but you are a role model now. And with a role model position comes a social and moral responsibility to stop these things before they happen. A great example is Dr. Lupo. There's a video of him that went around where somebody was talking this nonsense in his feed, and he shut it down immediately and banned the guy from his chat. That's what you have to do in those situations. You can't just come out and say, it's not my job to teach them about racism and white privilege. You have impressionable young people watching your stream every single day. If you see these things, and even if your first thought is they're just trying to troll me, stop them. Teach them. Use it as a teachable moment. Even if the teachable moment is only to make them ask the question, and then their parents can come in from there. Look, I understand the urge to say, not my problem. I get it. I worked 5 years in a gaming retail position, multiple stores in Delaware County, including King of Prussia Mall. I saw firsthand parents who were completely outmatched by kids who knew more than they did in the gaming world. The amount of times, if I had a nickel for every time a small child, 6 or 7 or 8 years old, brought me a game that was rated M, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, things like that, and tried to get me to purchase it for them with their parents standing there giving them permission, not even knowing what is going on, I would be a rich man. I was a retail store employee. Did I say, not my problem, sell them the game? No, I didn't. I showed the parent what is in this game. I showed them all of the descriptions on the back, the ESRB descriptions. I taught them what the ratings meant. And if the parents still made the choice to buy the game after that, fine. If they trusted their kid enough to play those games after I gave my spiel, fine. Then it's on them. But I started the conversation because I was in a position to do so. And all I'm doing is selling a game to a family, then they leave. You, my friend, my blue-haired friend, have a substantial audience of fans who watch you play video games every single day. Impressionable teenage kids. You are in a prime position to have similar teachable moments every time you see something like this, and you are actively and mindfully rejecting that opportunity. You're washing your hands, you're throwing it up and saying, nope, not my problem. Guess what, pal? It's your problem. And when you say these things, and when you put yourself out there like this in public forums, and you whether you think you're weathering these controversies or not, all you're doing is enabling this bullcrap behavior and making it so that the next legion of young, impressionable people who come to you and think that this like racist and homophobic stuff is normal just get emboldened. You have a responsibility here, whether you think so or not. It is not a direct responsibility. This I will give you. You are not there to parent these kids. That is true. You're not there to parent these kids. They're coming to you to watch a TV show, essentially. They're coming to you to watch you stream. But if you see it, and you don't identify it, and you just leave it alone, you, my friend, are complicit. And I know you don't want to hear that. I know you just want to sit back and play games and count your money and get all your fancy sponsorship deals and do your interviews and partner with the NFL for Super Bowl Sunday or whatever the hell it is you're doing now. But unfortunately, my man, that's not how this works anymore. You are primetime. And being primetime comes with responsibilities that you clearly are not ready for. If Dwayne The Rock Johnson, one of the most highly paid actor in Hollywood today, if he came out and said, if in a movie, if I'm on set and I see I see a kid, doing something, I don't stop. Not my problem to stop him and say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" People would be up in arms. If a movie star came out and said, it's not my responsibility it's a different playing field. You're on a different playing field now. All these big streamers are, but some of them get it. Some of them don't. Fantastic tweet, Carolyn Michelle on Twitter. Sorry, but if you're Ninja or Tim the Tapman or someone else with a huge viewership of gamers and you're not doing anything at all to make your channel, a space where it's clear that racists shouldn't feel comfortable or welcome, you are failing in a significant way. It's the damn truth. And unfortunately, you doing this doesn't affect your bottom line, which is really all you care about, Ninja, my pal. All you care about is the money you're bringing in and, living the life that you're living, whatever that life is now. Doing these New York Times profiles, cussing up a storm, making all the gamers look edgy. Stop. You've put your foot in your mouth so many times. I don't know if you just need a publicist or if you need a PR person or something. But whatever you do, you need to figure out a way to at least take some responsibility and address your audience when you see racist, homophobic stuff in your chats. I don't care if you think it's your job or not. You have the obligation to point out this stuff and let them know that it's not okay. Because even if you do that, and it makes them question for a second, maybe they will start the conversation with their parents. Maybe they will move on and stop with the racist and homophobic nonsense. If you just throw your hands up and say, nope, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do anything about it, then the racists and the homophobes turn your Twitch channel into a safe space. And is that really what you want? Is that the kind of people you really want? Or do you just not care? Because at the end of the day, they're views and viewers on a stat sheet. You make the decision, my man. I can't make it for you. But I hope you come to your blue-haired senses at some point. Because unfortunately for us, gamers who have been playing our entire lives, you represent us now. Whether you want to or not, you represent all of us in the mainstream. And I need you to do a better job. That is episode 33 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. My name is Jason Fanelli. I am the Esports and Gaming Insider for Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM Philadelphia, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Hopefully you're listening to this right now. Saturdays at 4 o'clock on the radio itself. Wherever you're listening to this, I thank you for your ears. I thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. Find me at Big Man Fanelli on Twitter if you want to talk about the things I talk about tonight. Suggest things for future episodes. A couple of interesting things coming down the pipeline in the form of interviews in the next few weeks. Be on the lookout for those. In fact, I might have an interview with someone that I talked about some point in this episode. Who may it be? It's not Ninja. And even if there was ever a chance, there's not going to be after this episode. But that's that. So, again, this has been episode 33 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. My name is Jason Fanelli. I hope you have a stellar week, and I will be back next week to once again go over the biggest news in the gaming industry and esports as well. Thank you. Good night.